for you.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bon appetit.
Hit it.
They're here.
Don't cross the streams.
Bueller.
I'll have what she's having.
Great Scott!
Why did it have to be snakes?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Bueller.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
I'll be back. I am your father.
Bueller.
I feel the need for speed.
It's showtime.
All right. Hello.
Hello there, sister.
We are the Silver Screen Sisters.
And welcome back.
Yeah. How are you doing today, Billie?
I'm doing all right. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm kind of recovering from that. So you know how it goes.
Yes. Do you have any special stories to tell us?
We went to McMenamins, the new McMenamins in Tacoma, and they have like 800 bars in that place, but they also have a hidden speakeasy. So we went there for dinner, and then I drank too much wine. And
as you should. It's your birthday.
should. And then we wandered up and down all around to find the speakeasy, and we found it.
Nice.
But yeah, what about you? How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Things are, things.
Yeah.
I did something with my neck, so I've had a bad couple of days.
Yeah.
I can turn my neck now.
Oh, that's
without
nice.
it hurting super bad.
Ugh.
Yeah, this is just what my back does now.
Yeah. I can't relate to that at all.
Ha. But no, on a serial note, I am doing A-okay.
Good.
It is Sunday, and tomorrow school starts back up.
Woohoo.
And I will clean my house and make appointments, go to appointments. I will do things.
Be the miracle mom.
I am a miracle worker. Miracle Max. Instead of Miracle Max, it's Miracle Mom. You know that reference?
Nope.
I'm pretty sure it's Miracle Max, isn't it? From The Princess Bride? I better find out.
You're probably right. I'm so
I
bad
hope
at
so,
that.
because I love that movie. If I'm wrong, that's
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I just wasn't putting two and two together. Also, to be fair, I'm a little hungover.
Normally, I'm the one that's hungover, so this is a shock to me to see you this way.
Well, yeah, that's pretty true. I'm not the party animal, not really.
Usually I'm like, my head, it hurts, the children. But it's been a couple solid weeks of not drinking, so.
Solid
I don't know
weeks.
why. It just didn't happen these last weekends.
You know what? Holidays, we're all kind of just like, oh, yay,
I think
the
I'm
new year.
boozed out, to be honest.
Yeah.
This ain't a resolution. I'm boozed out. I don't want any more booze. I'm too old for that.
Well, don't they call it dry January?
Yes.
There
so
you go.
everyone's on CBD or sparkling cider. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump on in. So last time we picked the NeverEnding Story, 1984.
Ending story.
Did you know that it's actually a man singing that song?
What?
Yeah.
Now I gotta go back and listen.
Yeah, no, it's actually a man singing that song, but the timbre of his voice and everything really sounds like just an alto woman singing the song.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, Robert clued me in on that one because I was like, nope, that's not a man. That can't be a man. But yeah, apparently it is.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
I just wanted to give a brief synopsis about this story for anybody who might not have seen the movie recently, maybe needs to jog their memory, or haven't seen the movie at all and just kind of wants to hear our take on it, maybe. Who knows? So the brief synopsis is Bastian, who lost his mother and is being dragged into adulthood by his father, finds an old bookshop, steals a book from the bookseller, and then stays in the attic of his school all day and all night with apparently nobody looking for him, and then reads this epic book that teaches him how to embrace his own imagination. And then the story of the book itself is being played out while the kid is reading it. So, yeah, that's the story.
Do you remember when we watched this?
No, I do not. I don't think I ever watched this when I was younger.
Oh, that's how I remember it.
Oh, I don't really remember it.
Oh, I thought you were, so you don't remember like I do. Where do
no,
I start?
I don't. Sorry.
It is a children's movie, but for my state of mind, I think it was too much as a child, and I only remembered the horse.
Oh my God, that's a traumatic part too.
So in the last 22 to 25 years, I've been living this way, just thinking of the horse. And so, yes, it opened up a lot of deep inside scars I might have.
Same, dude. Same.
But it was a good movie.
It was great. It was a great story. What do you have for us? Some fun facts, trivia, history about the movie?
Well, it's based off of a fantasy novel.
Yes.
By
Michael Ende. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
And
yeah, right.
And with an extra E at the end.
Right.
But yes. So, published in, I think, the early 80s or late 70s. Yeah. So it was adapted into different films, and this is one of them.
Mm-hmm. I do have a little bit of trivia about it.
Ooh, give it to me.
Yeah. So it was filmed in Germany, and there was a lot of German dialogue that they actually overdubbed in English. So sometimes it looks kind of weird when they're talking, and they may be speaking English, but they overdubbed a lot of it for various reasons. Also, they gave the film to Steven Spielberg to edit it for American audiences. Yeah. So he, switched some things around, and he, I think he eliminated some minutes of the movie and stuff like that. And the last little bit I have is that apparently the author was so upset with the adaptations of his novels that he refuses to have any of these movies remade again. And so apparently it's just tied up in litigation and will be forever, and it's just not worth fighting it for the movie rights to remake it.
So you're telling me this cannot be remade? And it's not because of what we say about it?
As an author myself, I kind of understand, but at the same time as, I know a lot of people out there who really love this movie and love this story, and I'm sure they would love to see a remake of it, especially with today's technology. But yeah, I can understand why the author would have had a problem.
Yeah, it was probably the golden titties. I think that was a big shock.
Especially for a child's movie. Hello.
It shocked me so much that I looked up the rating because I was like, where did these boobies come from? I'm pretty sure it's a child's film, and looked it up. Backtracking, I guess this time you got more information than I did.
Yeah,
so
it's a balancing act. It's all good.
Yeah, and again, I was a little scarred.
Yeah.
All this came rushing back to me.
Yeah.
So I want to start with you and the music because that's where we usually start, and you know a lot about it. I like this opening song, as you heard.
Yeah. Okay.
You didn't, because, it's terrible. It's for a child,
well,
okay?
I like the song, the NeverEnding Story song. I do. Catchy, all the things. But I can't get over synthesizers. I'm sorry. Synthesizers to me should not be used as a melodic instrument.
They were in the 80s.
I know, they were so in. And you know what? If to everybody who loves synthesizers, you do you. This is just me, one person's opinion. That said, very talented music, very talented musicians, composers. There's actually two of them. One is Giorgio, I'm going to butcher this, Moroder?
Dang it. Can we go to Mordor? I thought of Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Composer. Anyway, he's an Italian composer. He's actually the father of disco, believe it or not.
What?
I know. He's worked with all kinds of artists like Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Electric Light Orchestra, David Bowie, Blondie, Donna Summers, Elton John, Queen. Like the song Hot Stuff by Donna Summers is one of his productions. He was a pioneer for Euro disco and electronic dance music, EDM.
Wow.
He also did some other movies like American Gigolo and Scarface. I know, right?
American Gigolo and Scarface.
And Scarface.
Apples and oranges.
I know, right? He did win several Academy Awards for his songs in movies like Take My Breath Away and Flashdance, What a Feeling. So he's very prolific, very big name that apparently I never heard before, but everybody knows his stuff. So now you know.
I think in the music world, everybody knows his stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes you the minority. But out here in the non-musical world, everybody's like, who's that?
Yeah. So
don't feel bad. You're golden.
I think
it's awesome how diverse this guy is.
Oh, yeah,
He
absolutely.
Really...
serious talent here. And then he worked with another guy named Klaus Doldinger. This person is a German saxophonist and film composer. He mostly plays the saxophone, keyboards, synthesizer. He's more of a contributor to the score based on everything I looked at, and he owns his own, or he has his own jazz band. He still plays all the fun things.
All right. That's awesome.
But start off with the synthesizer, and I said in the first episode that music can make or break a movie for me. And I think that's an extreme case in this movie. So...
Wait, it broke it?
Yeah. So for me, well, the first time I watched it a couple of years ago, I didn't like it at all. And I think it was because I was so focused on just how I didn't like the music. And the music totally tore me out of the story. And I just couldn't get into it. Music in movies helps foster that emotional appeal of a story, right?
Well, I guess it scared the hell out of me, so I don't like them either. And I just projected it a different way in my younger years.
Yeah, maybe. So for me, I was not connected to the music, and I think it tore me out of the movie a bit. But now that I was paying attention more to the story this time around, I realized how good of a story it is, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I look at the story more than the music. So as an adult now, it was a cute story, but can be traumatic. So should we get on into it?
Yeah, let's go. What were your first impressions?
Well, Bastion, which I thought was Sebastian, but it's apparently Bastion.
Yes.
I mean, it's an okay name. It works.
It works.
The first initial thought was Wonder Bread when it opened up, because we used to eat a lot of that.
Oh, yes.
We established that Bastion's mother is deceased and his father is trying to help him grow up, but he's terrible at it. Talking about the death, it was just very weird, and then proceeds to scold him about school. He's a jerk.
Meanwhile, he's making some sort of orange juice and egg concoction in the blender. Gross.
I didn't catch what he put in there.
Oh, orange juice and an egg.
I want to not. That makes me want to vomit. So yeah, that was basically it. And then he's on the way to school, and that's where we see Bastion run into some bullies, and this is what sets it off to start the story, basically.
Yeah. I love the fact that it starts with a boy who's clearly an avid reader. I mean, he wakes up and there's a book on his face, pretty much. And then, dad's forcing him to grow up too soon, in my opinion, because Jesus. But yeah, then Bully Town, like, this boy isn't being treated well by any facet of his life right now. No wonder he's escaping into stories, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I said, like, the poor kid can't catch a break.
And then his three bullies chase him. Well, first throw him in the dumpster, and then he gets out, and they're waiting right there. So they chase him, and he gets away by hiding in a bookstore.
Yeah.
Which is his dream. How, convenient.
I would love to live in that bookstore, please and thank you.
Meh. I bet it smells. It was a little dusty.
Yeah, a little bit. I might sneeze a couple times, but yeah.
It looked like that guy's been sitting in the dust for...
I know, right?
A long time.
I just love the fact that he ducks and hides inside a bookstore, just kind of like I duck and hide into reading books. And, like, he ducks and hides into reading his books, too.
I love how the bookkeeper was like, get out, or something along the lines of, I don't like children. I feel that, mister.
Yeah, right.
I feel that. But, of course, he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
Instead, he starts talking to the bookseller, and the bookseller's like, oh, you just read comic books. You're not an actual reader. And then this boy's like, I actually have 182 books at home. Like, wow, this kid's very well read.
Yeah.
And I love how much of a character this bookseller is. Like, he was just so extra on so many levels.
He did tell him to punch the bullies in the nose.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
So, I already like him.
Mm-hmm. I liked him a lot. He's just such a character. And then he, like, hides the book. He starts talking about the book. So he says about the book that it's, like, the most dangerous book. It's not, like, a safe book like the other books that Bastian reads, which I thought was interesting.
Listen, have you ever been Captain Nemo, trapped inside your submarine while the giant squid is attacking you?
Yes,
Weren't you afraid you couldn't escape?
but it's only a story.
That's what I'm talking about. The ones you read are safe.
And that one isn't?
Don't worry about it.
So in a post-COVID world, I'm like, you too close to his face, right? It's like, get out of his face, because he's like, your books are safe. And I'm like, your breath ain't. It was scaring me. If I was that kid, I would have thought he was kind of crazy as he was getting into the book, like talking about the book. Yeah, and they were just like right next to each other, like face to face.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
Too much. And then I like how he just hides the book under the newspaper right there.
Oh, yeah. No, I knew right away that he's talking up this book like it's some big old bad mysterious thing, as if, he really wants the kid to pick it up. And then he slyly slides it under the newspaper. And I'm like, you do realize that the kid is just going to grab your book. And of course, that's confirmed a little bit later when he realizes the book is gone and the kid is gone, and he just grins.
We see what you did there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you think about it, he just wants the kid to foster his imagination. What bookseller, what author doesn't want that, I thought that was really cute.
Right. Yeah. So he runs right on out of there to school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cool. He goes to school to read, right?
Yeah. How does the school not realize that there's an attic key issue?
Like, is that an attic?
Yeah.
It looks like a different place, a different room. And I just want to know how he acquired the key.
Well, the key is on the wall in this little box, but the glass is broken out of it. So he sticks his hand in there and it says like attic key above it or something like that. And so he grabs the key out of there. And he uses that key to get into the attic. And then he locks himself back into the attic. So,
but that doesn't make sense either, because a janitor would clean that shit up.
Exactly,
like, you don't have glass
thinking.
around. Nice try there, director.
I mean, it is a fantasy, right?
Yeah. But it's a cool fantasy, because I wish I had that room when I was at school.
Man, the perfect hideout. I loved when he opens up the book and he starts reading it, because the very first line of the book, which he reads aloud, it says, "It was midnight in the howling forest." And to me, that's like the perfect equivalent of, "It was a dark and stormy night."
Oh my goodness. As a story writer, you probably enjoyed this more.
I did. I really did.
Around.
So I'm not sure how many people, I don't know how much I've talked about this, but I do write novels, and I have my master's in English and creative writing. So I really enjoy stories and storytelling. So this was, once I got into that mindset and ignored the music, it appealed to the other side of me.
Now you've got the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Right.
Not in this movie.
Right. So what did you think when it transitioned into Fantasyland?
It was definitely somewhere else. We went from the real world school to a rock biter.
Uh-huh.
Basically, you have, his name's Teeny Weeny, and he rides the slug thing,
I love
right?
him. Mm-hmm.
And then you've got, I believe it's the Nighthawk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the I don't know what to describe him as.
Yeah.
Like a fox?
I don't
know. Creature?
Something.
A weird something. And then his bat. And they're just hanging out. And then this huge rock biter. What was his name?
He's just a rock biter. I don't remember his name. But it's just like a giant ass rock troll, really.
Yeah, so he's like stomping on up and everyone's freaking out because they're little.
Yeah.
And we find out that he is eating the rocks here because the rocks over there, where he was from, are gone.
Yeah.
And this is what brings about talking about the nothing.
The nothing. Yeah. So a couple of things that I noticed in this part was, well, first I looked at the puppeteering and I was like, oh, did Jim Henson's group do that? No, they didn't do it for this film, but they did do it for, I think, NeverEnding Story 3. So I was like,
there's more of these.
Yeah, there's 2 and 3. So, maybe we should add those to the list.
We'll see. Continue.
So, and then the second thing I noticed was the teeny weeny guy. I was like, he looks familiar.
I knew it. I know what you're going to say.
He was an Oompa Loompa in the new Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. Well, new being like, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't remember. But yeah, I was like, that guy's an Oompa Loompa. I know he's an Oompa Loompa, but I thought he would have been an Oompa Loompa in the original Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder, but he wasn't. He was in the remake.
No, he aged very well.
Yeah, he really did.
And I think they just used his face.
Yeah, it was only him.
All the Oompa Loompas. So
it was only him.
Actually, I like Teeny Weeny and his race car, and his race snail.
Yeah, his race snail. I loved that.
I related to the rock fighter as in I like rocks as crystals.
Yes.
So that made me laugh.
Yes.
A rock fighter? Pardon me. That was limestone with a dash of quartz. Very tasty. Where I come from in the north, we used to have exquisite gourmet rocks. Only now, they're all gone.
He was very slow, but like wise. He's like a strange sort of nothing is destroying everything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because the bad guy is called Nothing. Maybe that's why he sounds so wise.
Maybe.
Is that right to say, like, the Nothing's the bad guy?
Yeah, the Nothing is the antagonist. I mean, if you think about it, the whole point of the movie is to foster the child's imagination. And as we grow into adults and we lose our imagination, our imagination becomes a nothing. So yeah, that is a major antagonist that I think all of us fight or just give up and succumb to as we grow older.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts. TM.
So we established the Nothing, and that leads to a town meeting. So they talk about how they got to get to the Empress.
I loved all of the different characters that they zoomed in on.
See, it freaked me out, those heads.
I liked the big head guys because I thought those were cool, but then the heads that had like 4, 3, and 2 faces on them, like weird.
I see why this was scary as a child for me. And then I don't know who this guy was. I was like, we have an emperor. So I don't know who he was, but he was like, the Empress is sick.
Yeah.
It threw me off that he came out looking like an emperor dude. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's just the assistant or whatever.
Maybe they need a hat. Maybe that establishes what an emperor is.
Maybe.
Because I would have said he's good.
Yeah.
He could have been like, all right, I got this, guys.
Right.
And been the emperor.
Right.
But no, he informs everyone the Empress is ill and it's probably linked to the Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
See, I didn't get the background. Maybe you can fill me in. But we need this warrior, Atreyu, who happens to be there.
So, well, there's in the book, and Robert told me this, I'm totally giving him credit for this. There is a time jump until Atreyu shows up, but in the movie they kind of gloss over it, and
then he's there.
Yeah,
like ta-da!
Yeah, they explained it by saying that the Empress has already sent word for him, and so he magically appears at the perfect timing. Of course.
What a coincidence!
I'm sorry, but this is not the time and the place for children. I must ask you to leave.
If you don't want me here, you shouldn't have sent for me.
Is he in that case?
It was not you we sent for. We wanted to betray you.
I am Atreyu.
Not Atreyu the child. Atreyu the warrior.
I'm the only Atreyu of the Plains people. But I'll be happy to go back hunting the purple buffalo.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why did they need this warrior and then say, by the way, you can't bring any weapons? That made, that didn't make any sense to me. Why?
You know, I had a problem with that too. Just a little bit of one, but I'll explain because of storytelling. So they tell him that he can't take any weapons or bring anybody with him. But it's also, I think, in that point, a physical representation of leaving his old self, his old life behind. Here, I'm going to explain a little bit about the hero's journey. Hero's journey is basically the structure or the blueprint of every epic story going all the way back to Greek times forever, like when we started actually writing stories down and everything. So basically you start with a main character, life is normal, and then he crosses a threshold and goes into this new world and starts exploring and going through trials and tribulations and all of the things, right? So at that threshold, I think that's where this is happening, is this Atreyu needs to shed his expectations, his old life behind him to go forward into this journey, this quest.
Okay.
And I think it works that way because he's not relying so much on himself anymore, but he's relying on the friends that he meets along the way. And he needs to get connected to Bastian. And how can he do that if he's so focused on his own weapons and his own friends, you know?
Right.
So that was my interpretation of it. So I have one more mind-blowing metaphor thing because I wrote it down on my notes here and I just got to it. So the story of Fantasia falling apart and disappearing into nothing really is like the perfect metaphor for Bastian's world falling apart because of his mother's death.
Yeah.
You and I do know what that's like. And it really does feel like the nothing. And I really liked how through the progression of the story, it refers to things like depression, sadness, even anger. And sometimes you just need a little bit of luck to get through and you need your friends to help you get through it. I thought that was beautiful.
I need a luck dragon.
I know, right?
That's my friend.
But I guess the important bit here in this scene is he's also presented with the pendant, the Orin, which speaks for the Empress, which that's his biggest tool. But he doesn't even use it or doesn't even do anything with it until the very end when he's trying to find her.
When? Like, I'm trying to think.
The pendant thing, it glows when he's trying to find her after Fantasia's exploded.
Got it. Oh, okay. I thought it was used so he would, like that big turtle thing. So
shit.
People knew.
Yeah.
You speak for the Empress, so I will talk to you.
That's true. That's true. I totally just blanked on that part. You're right.
No worries. And also like the statues and shit.
Oh, yeah. I loved the epic travel montage of him riding on his horse through...
For like a week.
Forever. Yeah.
See, this is why I kind of love this movie, but I kind of don't. It's different than what I remember, but I just remember the horse doesn't make it. Obviously, if you're listening and haven't seen it, spoiler, but I thought that happened at the end. So after this like beautiful montage, it's sooner than I expected. So kind of makes me sad. But it is quite beautiful, the ride.
Oh, yeah. And then, they show the relationship between man and horse, and he's feeding him sugar cubes and all the cuteness. And then it cuts back to the boy. I just love how the interplay of the boy reacting to what's happening in the story, which every reader ever has done this. And this little boy is like, yeah, food sounds great. And he takes a big old bite of his sandwich, and he's like, but not too much, because we still have a long way to go. And then he gets back into his book. What a cute kid.
When he did that, I was like, oh no, I have to stay up for at least another hour and a half because it was late. Not, because of the movie, but it was late.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, it's just taking off.
At this point, I did write a note that I was getting a little bored at this point. And I think it's just a combination of, modern movies being so fast paced, number one. And number two, I have ADHD. I'm going to get bored. Whoop-de-doo. But it does take a moment before we really get into the trials and tribulations that Atreyu is going to be going through. I did like our first meeting with the wolf guy with the glowing green eyes in the dark.
Ugh,
I was like, that is exactly what it's like when you run into your cat in the middle of the night and you see nothing but glowing eyes.
Come, creature of darkness. Meow.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly it.
So yeah, we see him for a minute because I was like, that's the bad guy, but he works for the Nothing. We find out later. But anyways, this is literally after the boy starts eating and he's like, wait, we're getting into this. They get into the Swamp of Sadness.
Artax, you're sinking! Come on, turn around! You have to now! Come on, Artax!
I just don't understand, though, how it got the horse and not the kid.
I know.
Because after the horse goes, he's sitting there sad.
I know. I had a second thought that maybe it's not so much that it swallows people or animals that are sad, but more like it causes sadness. So by taking the horse, it now made Atreyu beyond sad, grieving, depressed, and maybe the Swamps of Sadness feeds off of that somehow. So,
but it wasn't enough?
Yeah.
Because I would have thought like it would have taken him too because he was so sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should have, I think. But
that would have been a short movie.
It would have been a really short movie.
And then the kid's crying. Yeah. He's reading, which is so relatable.
Yeah. Can we talk about Dobby and Harry Potter? Yeah.
Oh my God. Shut it. If you haven't read Harry Potter,
I'm sorry.
Go read them.
Yeah, right. We did say there would be spoilers.
We didn't say anything about... oh well, they had a chance. Yeah. It's been out 20 years.
But yeah, I thought it was really fucked up how they did that. Ugh, anyway.
Fight against the sadness, Artax! Artax, please. You're letting the sadness of the swamps get to you. You have to try. You have to care. For me. You're my friend. I love you.
So after his horse is gone, he sees Morla. Morla? Yes, and that's at the Shell Mountain.
Mm-hmm. I said, here's my description. It's a giant-ass turtle with an entire ecosystem on his back.
And, I mean, he was walking through it, climbing it, so...
Are you Morla? The Ancient One?
Not that it matters, but yes.
Please help me, Morla. Do you recognize this?
Well, we haven't seen the Orin in a long time.
This was very interesting because obviously Morla does not give a shit about anybody.
Well, here's another thing though. Like, at first I was writing down that he was the ultimate honey badger.
But honey badger don't give a shit.
Exactly. But then he starts going off on, nothing matters, we don't care, blah, blah, blah. And what does that sound like? Depression.
I didn't see that with the turtle. I saw more of the whole point in all of this in the story with Atreyu is that all the adults and people are like, give up. Well, not all the adults, but there's certain points in his journey where they're like, give up or whatnot. And that's how I didn't see the depression side. Yeah. I saw it as the outside world telling a child to give up.
Oh yeah, nothing matters. None of the fantasy stuff matters. We don't care about your fantasy
just
world.
Like in the real world, as Bastion's real world, this gets confusing.
No,
but what I mean.
I do know. It's basically like every adult ever, his dad specifically, is saying your fantasy world, your imagination doesn't matter.
I don't remember how it transitioned though from the turtle to the luck dragon.
It just cuts. It just cuts right into entering the flying dragon dog thing. The lucky dragon. To me, it looks like a dog too, so I call it the dog dragon.
Right. Well, but how did he save Atreyu?
So Atreyu wouldn't quit now. And then the transition is when it starts honing in on, it starts showing the flying dragon, and the dragon comes in and swoops up Atreyu as the rescue. And then Bastion's like, phew! Like, how many times have we done that when we're reading?
Now I remember that.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up with a dragon.
I love everything about this puppet. Number one, he has fur and feathers and scales and beautiful, big, cuddly thing. And his huge eyes. Like, I can't not see a cat or a dog giving you like these giant puppy eyes.
See, and I liked him more because of his like old Buddha wisdom or something.
Yeah.
He's like, never give up and good luck will find you.
Yeah, I love that so much because it's really true. Like, it's also the ray of hope that Atreyu needs, that Bastian needs.
I like children.
For breakfast?
Never. I'm a luck dragon. My name is Falcor.
Atreyu finds out there's other friends there with Falcor.
Yeah.
The two little minis.
Yeah, the little
scientist
mini
versus the witch.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down.
The mini elf people, which totally reminded me of Miracle Max.
Yeah.
And his life in Princess Bride. Yeah. It's like, get out of my light, wench!
Competent.
Oh, yeah,
it was
yeah.
exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what...
Absolutely.
I didn't write down their names.
I didn't write their names down either. I'm sorry.
It was like Urgel and Ingiwook.
I have no idea. I love the juxtaposition between science and not science. Like traditional medicine versus scientific or something like that, you know? And both are, in my mind, equally valid.
Yeah, and they both were worried about their patients.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I like it.
You're disturbing my scientific work. You and your scientific work. What the boy needs now is one of my potions. The boy will need my scientific advice much more. Yes, but not until he's well. Get back here. I'm going this way.
So they start talking to him about finding the Oracle. Well, he asks them if he's close to the Oracle, and they're like, oh yeah, you're close, and you just gotta go through a couple gates, blah, blah, blah. He starts explaining about it.
So we find out real quick that these gates, we gotta go find the Southern Oracle, that Atreyu has to go through 3 gates, and this scientist knows the first 2, kind of. Moving on, because I don't remember where. Oh yeah, so the gates, the first gate, it's so convenient. Somebody just happens to like show up to demonstrate how it works. Because the first gate, you walk through the statues with the golden titties, and then they like laser you. If you are not, what was it? If you're not
true to yourself, if you're not feeling your self-worth or self-confidence, or like if you don't have confidence in yourself.
And the second one is the mirror to face one true self that reflects that doubt. So I see it all.
Yeah, I really like that because, you know, he starts going through the first gate and you see that he's actually going to make it through, but then he starts to doubt himself, and that's when they start going at him. But he still makes it. And then he gets to the magic mirror gate and he has to face his true self, which the scientist explained by saying that most men run away screaming. Brave men realize that they are cowards. Kind men realize that they are actually evil. And during this moment, Atreyu looks at his true self and he sees Bastian reading in the attic.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was so cool. Like, at that point, you realize that the kid is part of Atreyu, which the Empress starts explaining at the end. But yeah, I thought that was really cool.
So he gets finally to the Southern Oracle, which is basically the first statues, but now blue.
Yeah.
And that's when they let him know the human child is the only one that can save the Empress by giving her a new name. And he seemed very confused and irritated, as he should be, because if that was a phone call, that was an email, that was a liner in the email saying, give her a name, stop. I don't even have to open it. I already know what's happening. I just can't believe it was all that travel just for someone to say the human has to give her a name.
This meeting could have been an email.
It could have, like... So
you slay me. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
I think like an adult now. Again, an email would have been better because she's like falling apart.
Like how much time would have been saved if they just sent him an email?
This would have been a 1-episode TV show. Anyways.
So yeah, so then he's obviously like, well, how do we find this human child? And they said, with luck.
Thanks. Oh, and then the luck dragon. Actually, I thought about that when they said with luck. I thought about the dragon.
Oh yeah, no, it immediately goes into the flying montage with this epic blue screen background of Falkor and Atreyu flying around, trying to find the boundaries of Fantasia.
But nothing's coming up quick, and Falkor drops Atreyu, which I'm not saying, I'm not judging.
So right here, it also cuts back to Bastian, and he's like, it's a shame that they don't ask me. My mother had a wonderful name.
So I'm guessing it wasn't the name at the end, though.
It was.
That was her real name?
I'll explain.
Okay. Well, we'll get there and explain.
Yeah. So yeah, then they go to the Sea of Possibilities, and that's when Falkor drops him. Or they go, the Nothing catches up with them, and there's like, action sequence of trying to avoid the Nothing and all of the turbulence, and Falkor accidentally drops Atreyu. I mean, we're going head on into the Dark Knight sequence of the story, which is a big part of any hero's journey story. You go through the trials and tribulations, you excel, you beat the monsters, and then you're knocked down, and you have a Dark Knight moment until you can finally rise up again and be the epic winner. So he's full on in this Dark Knight moment, and he's dragged all of us along with him.
My little friends, the little man with his racing snail, the nighthawk, even the stupid bat. I couldn't hold on to them. The Nothing pulled them right out of my hands.
Yeah, so he has a sad conversation with the Rockbiter, but then he goes into the building and sees all the stories, right?
It's his story.
He sees all the chapters of what we've been seeing. Basically what we've been seeing throughout this hour and 15 minutes now. He sees on the walls.
And then the big bad wolf shows up. What did you think about him?
It was irritating because he was looking for Atreyu, and he establishes right then, I lost the kid. But don't they use their smell? Like, wouldn't you smell him?
I guess the trick there, though, is Atreyu's scent was gone after he was basically buried in all that mud.
But he's standing right there.
That's
it's
true.
The same smell. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you've smelt it before.
Fair enough. Maybe,
so that was one thing I was like, okay.
Maybe he's just one of those guys that is really bad at their job.
Or maybe Atreyu just has one of those faces. You look like this guy now. I have some notes about the wolf.
Me too.
Where he says, Fantasia has no boundaries of world human fantasies.
Yeah, so I wrote,
there we go. Apparently I'm dyslexic.
No, you're fine. So yeah, he says, and his name is Gamork, by the way, which you can't understand. I couldn't understand him saying his name.
Oh, I wrote it down. I was like, why did I write Gamork?
Yeah.
That's
his name. So he does say that Fantasia, it's the world of human fantasy, and it has no boundaries, which, yeah, we have imagination and no boundaries, man.
But why is it leaving us?
Yeah.
Why is it nothing?
Right. So he's like, but it's dying because people have come to lose their hopes and forget their dreams. So the Nothing is the emptiness that's left, and it's a despair that is destroying this world. And now he's also explaining that people who have no hopes are easier to control, and whoever has that control has the power.
I mean, definitely for Bastian's mind, this is like telling him, like, don't lose, like, this is what's coming, the real world. This is
the
what's
real
coming.
world.
Don't lose your fantasies, don't lose your dreams and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we also learned that the big bad wolf is really just a servant of the power behind the Nothing. And he was sent to kill the only one who could have stopped the Nothing. And that's when we find out he, quote unquote, lost him in the Swamp of Sadness.
His smeller must be bad. Anywho, so Atreyu's like, I'm Atreyu, bah! And so
exactly, and then he
right
kills the big bad wolf
because Gamork jumps on him, but he's got like a spear or a knife to get him.
Epic.
So he survives Atreyu. Gamork does not, and at that time, Falkor comes back.
And he also has the Orin that Atreyu lost. So how lucky is that?
Fantasia's not looking good at this point.
No.
It's like a Star Wars scene in going through the meteor shower.
Oh my god! Oh god!
It had Star Wars vibe. So flying through the pieces of Alderaan, we find one big rock with the tower still on it.
Yeah, and then they find the ivory tower, and this is where they absolutely lose me, because it's epic synthesized music. Now, granted, there are violins playing. I can hear the violins or whatever, but I can't tell with the synthesizer, like, if they're real violins or if they're synthesized, or I don't even understand. Like, the timbre of it just doesn't, it's not suited for me. Like, I don't like that sound. So it totally ripped me out of the story. It should have been this moment of great, like, hope, I guess, to see the tower. But I was like, all I could think of was, this music.
See, and I didn't think of any of the music. I couldn't even hear that because I was so traumatized with this little... Okay, first, Atreyu gets in there and sees the Empress, and it's a little girl, and she is like, this is what we have to do because the human's already here, and the way it's presented, it gives me anxiety.
Oh.
I could see why when I was younger that scared me more. It's not scary now, but the way they climax to the end of Bastion having to yell the name.
Yeah, it takes a long time, and you're just like, get to it, get to it, get to it. Come on.
We know already.
Yeah. And we're like...
But she's a great actress. She was crying and
she
stuff.
was great.
Like, she sold it. I liked her.
I did too. I really did.
Bastion. Why don't you do what you dream, Bastion? But I can't. I have to keep my feet on the ground. Call my name. Bastion. Please.
We get to the part where the Empress is explaining how the Earthling child was within Atreyu, which we saw throughout the film. And that was the only way to get in touch with this Earthling was to send Atreyu onto this epic journey so he could connect to the child. And I love what she says here. He has suffered with you, and he has been through everything with you. And Bastion's like, what?
He was having a hard time accepting what she was saying. Yeah. She's like, you crazy lady.
It was awesome because his disbelief and his doubts and all of that were destroying the world. Like, every time he was like, no, what? No, I don't believe this, or whatever. Like, there were more cracks and more destruction. And eventually Atreyu gets knocked down and he's passed out. And the Empress is just like, ah! But she also says, just as he's sharing your adventures, there are others sharing his. Meaning us. But I really loved how she really, after Atreyu is knocked down and everything, she just hones in on Bastion, and they're like, both of them are staring into the camera as if they're staring at each other or at us. And she says, why don't you do what you dream, Bastion? And he's like, I can't. I have to keep my feet on the ground.
But, I mean, he calls out the name, so he makes it.
Yeah, he makes it. He gets there. He goes run into the window, screams it out into the night. And apparently there's a big controversy about this part because not a lot of people can hear what he's saying. I couldn't.
It doesn't sound like Moonchild.
No, it doesn't.
All.
It doesn't. And so apparently his mother's name was Moonchild. I mean, we're talking about this was made in 1984 and the book was written in like the late 1970s, he said. So in the 60s, when the hippie movement, 60s, 70s hippie movement really took off, that's what hippies did, is they renamed themselves with these, like, Moonchild or Flower Child or whatever kind of names.
Well, I don't like this theory now, because how was it, like, if she changed her name, why was she married to this douche canoe?
I know!
So if it's a hippie thing, that throws me off.
Well,
that's very weird.
I also think, though, that maybe the dad was more like her, but since she passed, all of her love and imagination and all of that was gone. So I feel like that's what grief does, is they turn you into, if you're, not careful about it, or if you don't take care of yourself, grief can turn you into somebody like the dad. Just, completely shut down. You got to keep doing the old job. That's it.
Or this is why the author does not like this movie.
Yeah, very true.
Because it just doesn't add up.
Very true.
I guess it ends that way because he yells the name, and then the lucky dragon picks him up and flies him through, and we go over people again. Yeah. Everyone's okay. We see Atreyu. We see the Empress. We see all the people. The horse. Oh, thank God.
I know, right? The horse is back. The bat dude guy was back. The teeny weeny and his snail was back. Everybody's back. It was great.
And scene.
Turn around. Look at what you see.
How would you rate the movie? Because I have a rating in my mind. Should I go first?
Yes.
I'm kind of favoring the actual author when it comes to these movies. Mm-hmm. I want to give it a 2.
Oh!
It's way bad. Oh. I know. Do you want to know why?
Yes.
Because I've watched it as a child and an adult. I think as a child, it could have been presented way better.
Yes.
It's too down and dark for children, I think. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen, like, the movie Inside Out?
Yes.
Yes, with the cartoons and joy and sadness. Mm-hmm. That's a good amount. That's an easy push into our feelings for kids. This movie, you weren't easily pushed into anything. You were pushed into, the swamp of sorrow. It was just too much for a little kid, I think. Yeah. And watching it as an adult, the thing I like about it is the story that's written. Yeah. You as a writer, that's what I appreciate the most. Mm-hmm. But it would be so cool if it was made today, just differently, not in that weird, eerie... I don't know how to describe it because you've got to have the eerie feelings, but
it was
the
really
animation,
dark.
It could have been a little lighter.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, so, I think, and I haven't read the book, and I am for sure going to go find that book and read it now. It might change my rating too, because I'm one of those people that books and movies are always going to be different because they are different genres. They are different mediums of telling stories. So, like. You can take your time and tell a story the way books are meant to tell stories, but then if you're trying to tell that same story in a movie or a TV show, things might need to work a little faster, or things might need to be changed in order to portray the same thing to an audience who's more used to TV and movies. I think I would give this a 6. I think I would give it a 6.
All right.
I think the story itself and the metaphors and what it was representing, and the way they told the story between the child and Atreyu's adventures was pretty clever and pretty cute. And it deals with a very heavy topic like death, grief, depression, and then how do you hang on to your imagination after all of that, And that's I feel, a very important story, a very, like I said earlier, a very poignant story. And I really connected to that. I will say that some of the puppeteering, while amazing, was kind of creepy to me. And it was very, very dark. It was very dark. And then the statues, of course. Overall, the story was beautiful. And I think the director did a pretty good job, but I also think the story, like you said earlier, could have been lighter. But yeah, I felt like this was maybe a little too heavy and maybe not something all kids would have related to.
Well, should we see what next 80s movie soundtrack we're going to get into?
Why do I always get so nervous during this? I'm like afraid of the next movie.
Know. Sorry, it's underneath my mic, so I'm sorry.
I like the noise of the paper, I'm not gonna lie.
All right, this one's gonna be fun. Are you ready?
Oh, God.
Batteries not included.
Oh! Yeah, batteries not included. I watched that one not too long ago. Have you ever seen it?
What are you doing to me? I have not seen it. I feel like you've seen a lot of 80s movies.
To be fair, Robert has been introducing me to some 80s movies over the course of our relationship, but I'm usually not up for it, or if I did watch it, I didn't watch it very critically, okay?
Well, we should probably tell our listeners.
Yeah.
I almost said viewers. We're the viewers. You're the listeners. Our information.
Yeah. If you guys want to reach out to us with any of your opinions on these movies, your hot takes, any stories that you might have of when you maybe first watch these movies, or if they're a favorite movie with you and a friend or a family member, or maybe you really do hate the movie, feel free to tell us and tell us why. We would love to read your stories, and we are totally planning on making some listener episodes when we get more stories sent to our inbox. And our email address is connect@silverscreensisters.com. And you can also pop onto our website, www.silverscreensisters.com, and there is a contact form on there that you can fill out and send us your stories, send us questions, concerns, critiques. Please be kind. I get a little sensitive with critiques, so.
But yes, you guys be nice to us.
Please. And nice to each
or
other.
We'll not talk to you, so. So there. I guess that's all.
That's
I can't wait for next week.
Batteries
I guess we
not
will
included.
see you guys there. And with that, sister, I love you.
I love you too, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, check out our website at silverscreensisters.com. Silver Screen Sisters 80s edition is hosted by Billie and Sophie. Editing is done by Sophie, and cover art was done by Billie, with special illustration work done by Bacencia. Intro and outro music composed by Future Mono, and hold music composed by the Mini Vandals. This is a Silver Screen Sisters production and is powered by Coffee and Yoga Pants.